What I can do is pray. I pray a lot for peace. And also to suggest, please stop, negotiate.
Pope Francis, beloved for his humility and unwavering dedication to peace, is known for gracing monumental events with his presence. So when the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral, after years of restoration, prepared to reopen, the world eagerly awaited his arrival. But to everyone's surprise, he wasn't there. The absence sparked speculation and curiosity. Why wouldn't the Pope, a symbol of faith, attend such a historic moment? Then, in a move that left everyone speechless, Pope Francis spoke out, revealing a truth that shook the faith world to its core. Stay with us as we uncover his shocking statement. The journey of Pope Francis. From humble beginnings to global influence, Pope Francis is undeniably one of the most influential and beloved figures of the modern world. His leadership, marked by humility, compassion, and a deep commitment to global peace, has captured the hearts of millions across the globe. His papacy has broken with traditions, ushering in a new era of church leadership that prioritizes service over status and inclusivity over division. However, before he became the spiritual leader of over 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, known to the world as Pope Francis, had a story of his own, one that is deeply rooted in faith, perseverance, and love for the marginalized. His path to becoming the Pope is not just remarkable, it is a testament to his life's mission of simplicity and service to others. Let's take a deeper dive into his story, beginning from his early years in Argentina, through his rise within the church, to his papacy that continues to inspire. Early life, roots of humility and faith. Pope Francis was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio on December 17, 1936, in the Flores neighborhood of Buenos Aires, Argentina. He was the eldest of 5 children in the Bergoglio family, the son of Mario José Bergoglio, an Italian immigrant who worked as an accountant, and Regina Maria Sivori, a homemaker with northern Italian roots. The Bergoglio family had moved to Argentina in 1929, fleeing Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy. Their decision to leave was not born out of economic hardship, but out of a desire for freedom and a fresh start, providing a backdrop of resilience and hope that would influence young Jorge for the rest of his life. Growing up in a bustling, close-knit family, Jorge was introduced to the values that would later define his papacy: humility, hard work, community, and service to others. The streets of Buenos Aires were filled with the sounds of children playing soccer, and Jorge was no exception. He grew up as a regular child, participating in the same activities that defined childhood for many others. His family, although not wealthy, was rich in love, solidarity, and faith. These values would guide Jorge throughout his life, shaping his outlook on the world and the way he would eventually serve the church. The path to faith. Despite the everyday normalcy of his early years, there was always something unique about Jorge. At a young age, he showed an affinity for spirituality and a sense of discipline that stood out among his peers. He attended the Wilfrid Baranjon de los Santos Angeles School, a Salesian institution in Ramos Mejia, where he began to develop a sense of spirituality and a disciplined approach to life. Although at that time, Jorge had not yet envisioned becoming the Pope, there was already a sense of purpose developing within him, a foundation that would shape his future. In his late teens, Jorge attended the EULA Technical Industrial No. 27 school in Buenos Aires, where he pursued a course in chemistry. At this stage of his life, Jorge was like many young men, uncertain of his future, but filled with curiosity and ambition. He earned a diploma as a chemical technician and spent time working in a food laboratory, a job far removed from the papacy that would eventually become his destiny. However, Jorge's path was not solely defined by academic achievements or career aspirations. He also balanced his studies with a variety of odd jobs, including working as a janitor, and even as a bouncer at a local bar. These experiences grounded him in the reality of everyday life and prepared him for a future in which serving others, especially the marginalized, would become his life's work. A life-altering experience. The pivotal moment that would define Jorge's future came when he was 21 years old. After battling a life-threatening bout of pneumonia and undergoing surgery to remove 3 cysts, Jorge's health was severely compromised. He lost part of one lung, and the experience became a life-altering one. Forced to pause and reevaluate his life, Jorge realized that his future lay not in the laboratory or in the secular world, but in faith and service. Around this time, in 1958, something else occurred that would further solidify his path to the priesthood. While on his way to celebrate Spring Day with friends, Jorge made an impromptu stop at a local church to go to confession. It was a seemingly small act, but one that would ignite a spark within him. That visit to the church served as a turning point, and Jorge felt a profound calling to serve the church. From that moment on, his life would no longer revolve around chemicals and laboratory work, but around the spiritual and pastoral work of the Catholic faith. A journey into the Society of Jesus. In 1958, at the age of 22, Jorge entered the Society of Jesus, commonly known as the Jesuits, to begin his religious training. This decision marked the beginning of a deep spiritual journey that would take him from Argentina to Santiago, Chile, and back to Buenos Aires, where he would continue his studies in philosophy and humanities. During his time as a novice, Jorge, like many young men in religious life, faced moments of doubt. He even admitted to having a crush on a girl during his time as a seminarian, a moment that highlighted his humanity and the internal struggles that many religious figures face. However, despite these challenges, Jorge remained steadfast in his commitment to the faith, understanding that such moments of temptation were part of the larger journey of discernment. In 1960, Jorge took his first vows as a Jesuit, marking the beginning of his formal religious life. He began teaching literature and psychology at various high schools, immersing himself in the educational aspects of the Jesuit mission. Imagine, for a moment, being taught by a future pope. These formative years as a teacher and mentor would shape Jorge's understanding of service and the importance of education in shaping the lives of others. The Jesuit priest, a path to leadership. By 1969, after nearly a decade of study, Jorge was ordained as a priest. His ordination marked a new chapter in his life, one that would see him rise through the ranks of the church. His dedication to his work, particularly his focus on pastoral care and his ability to connect with others, set him apart from many of his peers. In 1973, he took his final vows as a Jesuit and was appointed provincial superior of the Jesuits in Argentina. During his 6-year term, Jorge focused on expanding pastoral work and developing deep personal connections with the people he served. He emphasized that the role of a priest was not to be detached from the world, but to be actively engaged in the lives of others. However, not everyone in the Jesuit community agreed with his approach. As tensions rose within the order, Jorge's focus on social justice and his close relationships with the poor became a point of contention for some. Nevertheless, he remained committed to his path, steadfast in his belief that the Church's primary role was to serve the most marginalized members of society. The Archbishop of Buenos Aires Jorge's career within the Church continued to evolve, and by 1992, he was appointed as the Auxiliary Bishop of Buenos Aires. It was here that he would earn the nickname, the Slum Bishop, for his unyielding commitment to the poor. While many members of the clergy distanced themselves from the poverty-stricken neighborhoods of Buenos Aires, Jorge moved closer, doubling the number of priests working in these areas, washing the feet of the marginalized, visiting hospitals, and walking alongside those who were forgotten by society. His humility and selflessness won him the love and respect of the people, and in 1998, he was named the Archbishop of Buenos Aires. The Cardinal's rise. In 2001, Pope John Paul II elevated Jorge Bergoglio to the rank of cardinal, an acknowledgement of his growing influence within the Church. Despite his newfound position, Jorge remained humble and continued to live simply. He refused to live in the lavish residences typically offered to cardinals, and instead chose to cook his own meals and take the bus to work. Even when traveling to Rome, he remained a man of low profile, eschewing the traditional luxury that came with his position. His simplicity was not an act of rebellion. Rather, it was a reflection of his deep commitment to the values he held dear: humility, service, and solidarity with the poor. In 2013, when Pope Benedict XVI made the unprecedented decision to resign, the world was thrown into uncertainty. A conclave of cardinals gathered in Rome to elect a new pope, and to the surprise of many, they elected Jorge Mario Bergoglio as the new leader of the Catholic Church. Taking the name Francis after Saint Francis of Assisi, the humble saint who lived among the poor, Jorge became the first pope from the Americas, the first Jesuit pope, and the first non-European pope in over 1,200 years. A new era for the Church. With his election, Pope Francis signaled the beginning of a new era for the Church, one characterized by simplicity, compassion, and a focus on reform. From the moment of his election, Pope Francis broke with tradition, setting a tone of accessibility and humility that would come to define his papacy. His first actions as pope were a direct reflection of this philosophy. On the night of his election, he chose to travel back to his hotel with the other cardinals on the bus, rather than in the papal car. The following day, he quietly visited a sick friend in the hospital, demonstrating that, for him, the role of pope was about service, not status. His decision to live outside the traditional papal apartments in the Apostolic Palace and instead reside in the Vatican guest house further exemplified his commitment to a simple and humble lifestyle. Pope Francis has often said that his role as pope is not about luxury or power, but about serving the people of the Church and the world. His papacy has been marked by efforts to modernize the Church, to address issues like poverty, climate change, and social justice, and to encourage greater inclusivity within the Catholic community. A global figure. Pope Francis has become a global figure, known not just for his role as the leader of the Catholic Church, but for his tireless advocacy for peace, the environment, and the poor. His trips to places like Iraq, where he offered hope to dwindling Christian communities, have made him a symbol of peace and solidarity. His messages of mercy, forgiveness, and humility resonate with people of all faiths, and his ability to connect with ordinary people is part of what makes him such a beloved leader. Legacy of service. Pope Francis's leadership has reminded the world that being a true leader is not about power or prestige, but about serving others. His actions speak louder than words as he continues to live out his values of mercy, compassion, and justice, both within the Church and beyond. His message is simple yet profound. Love one another, serve those in need, and work toward building a world where all people, regardless of their background or status, are treated with dignity and respect. The remarkable journey of Pope Francis, from the streets of Buenos Aires to the Vatican, is a story of faith, perseverance, and love. His papacy has transformed the way the world views the Catholic Church, and his influence extends far beyond the walls of the Vatican. Pope Francis has shown us all that leadership is not about elevating oneself, but about elevating others, especially those who are most in need. Hands-on humanitarian work. One of the most striking examples of Pope Francis's hands-on approach to charity is his response to the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. When these countries were shaken by tragic natural disasters, Pope Francis didn't limit himself to sending condolences. He took immediate action. In addition to offering prayers for the victims, he sent real help in the form of aid supplies, financial support, and the coordinated efforts of organizations like the Rava Foundation. The foundation, which has worked extensively with refugees in the region, immediately dispatched humanitarian aid, including food, medicine, and shelter, to the affected areas. Pope Francis made it clear that charity is not simply about well-meaning words, but about taking practical steps to alleviate suffering. Similarly, Pope Francis has been deeply committed to the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. His concern for the people there did not begin with the recent conflict. His focus on Ukraine dates back to 2016, when he personally donated $6 million to help those in need. The donation was not just for basic needs such as food and clothing, but also for medical care, therapy, and other critical services. Pope Francis's early commitment to the people of Ukraine demonstrated his ability to see beyond headlines and take proactive steps to help those in need. For Pope Francis, charity is not just about meeting immediate needs. It is about helping people heal, rebuild, and regain their dignity. His work often extends far beyond the first wave of aid, as he ensures that the people he helps receive the long-term support they need to rebuild their lives. Whether through direct assistance or by empowering organizations that share his vision, Pope Francis remains a beacon of hope for the marginalized. Inspiring and uplifting smaller organizations. While Pope Francis has worked with major international organizations, he is equally dedicated to uplifting smaller, lesser-known groups that share his vision for a more just and compassionate world. He consistently praises organizations such as Caritas Internationalis, which operates in over 200 countries and provides critical assistance to the poor and vulnerable. These smaller groups may not make headlines, but their work is life-changing, and Pope Francis makes sure they know their efforts are valued. One such organization is the University College for Aspiring Missionary Doctors, which sends medical professionals to underserved hospitals in Africa. Pope Francis has applauded the organization's efforts and recognizes that their work, while often overlooked by the media, is crucial to providing healthcare to communities that would otherwise go without it. These grassroots movements reflect the core of Pope Francis's understanding of charity, a belief that the work of helping others can happen on many levels, from global organizations to local, grassroots efforts. Pope Francis's commitment to supporting smaller organizations is a reflection of his deep belief in the power of community and collaboration. By giving recognition and support to these groups, he amplifies their impact and ensures that they can continue their important work. His leadership has created a ripple effect, encouraging others to take up the mantle of charity and serve their communities in whatever way they can. Charity in Pope Francis's hometown, South America. Pope Francis's influence has been felt most profoundly in his home continent of South America. Throughout his papacy, he has inspired countless charity projects aimed at tackling poverty, homelessness, and inequality in the region. As someone who grew up in Argentina, Pope Francis is acutely aware of the struggles faced by many people in South America, and he has made it his mission to bring attention to these issues. During the World Day of the Poor, he reminded the Church that serving the poor is not optional. It is an essential part of being a Christian. In a particularly moving homily, Pope Francis emphasized that the Church truly becomes the Church of Jesus Christ to the extent that it serves the poor. This message is central to his papacy, as he has repeatedly called on the Church to reach out to those on the margins of society. His message is simple: the poor and the vulnerable must always be at the center of the Church's mission. Global Network for Children. The Seeds of the Future. One of Pope Francis's most innovative charity initiatives focuses on children. His Global Network for Children is a project designed to create hubs of medical excellence that provide care for young people in underserved regions. This initiative is a powerful reminder that, while some illnesses may be incurable, no child should ever be considered incurable in the eyes of love. Through this network, Pope Francis seeks to provide not just medical treatment, but also education, emotional support, and the tools necessary for children to build better futures for themselves. Pope Francis's focus on children as the seeds of the future reflects his belief that the key to building a better world lies in investing in the next generation. By providing children with the resources they need to thrive, he is ensuring that future generations will have the opportunity to contribute to a more just and compassionate society. A relentless advocate for peace. In addition to his work with charity, Pope Francis has become a key figure in global diplomacy and peace building. Since his papacy began, he has consistently used his platform to call for peace, unity, and interfaith dialogue. His global travels are never for show. They are deeply personal missions aimed at bringing people together in times of conflict and hardship. One of Pope Francis's first iconic trips was to Brazil in 2013, where he visited World Youth Day and addressed a crowd of 3.5 million pilgrims. In his speech, Pope Francis urged the young people to live full, meaningful lives and not to be part-time Christians. His message of hope and faith resonated deeply, sparking a fire of devotion that spread beyond Brazil's shores. Pope Francis has continued this pattern of global outreach, traveling to conflict zones, historical regions, and forgotten corners of the world. He has visited Israel and Palestine, called for peace in Syria, and met with religious leaders in the Middle East. His papacy has been defined by this commitment to peace and diplomacy, as he consistently seeks to bring people of different faiths and backgrounds together to address global challenges.